Hey, tennis fans, you are listening to Watching Matchpoint Canada, Canada's premier tennis podcast. I'm Ben Lewis, joined alongside Mike McIntyre for our Roland Garros recap episode. French Open now in the books as we speak, Mike. We're already onto the grass courts with new tournaments, but let's look back at 2026 French Open with two new Grand Slam champions.
I think for the people out there laying money down on Roland Garros, there probably weren't too many who had the right choices, at least not a combined correct choice of Mirra Andreeva and Sasha Zverev. You had one of the two. Give you props for that one. You did pick the women's winner. And I will say that I did have Cobolli going to the semifinals in my bracket, losing to Sinner. And if you had told me Sinner was out of the equation, I guess I would have picked him to go to the finals. So that was the big surprise. I mean, if we start there on the men's side this week, that was the big shocker. The big surprise was that Jannik Sinner, who we all thought was going to have such an easy coast to the title at Roland Garros, fell early. And it wasn't necessarily due to an opponent that played better than him, but an opponent whose body held up better than him as he went down with cramping and physically just unable to muster very much at all in those fourth and fifth sets, which he lost by a couple of breadsticks. That was the stunning one. We all thought it was going to be such a predictable men's Roland Garros, and it was anything but.
Yeah, look, Jannik Sinner had won so much. He'd won every match he had played on clay going into this French Open. He was the prohibitive favorite, and it wasn't close. We know Carlos Alcaraz was missing, and Carlos Alcaraz sadly still missing. But obviously, when Jannik Sinner's body let him down, and this is not the first time this has happened, but extreme cramps. I'm sure the heat in Paris played a role, whether he chose to acknowledge that or not. But that completely collapsed this men's draw. And look, there was one name that we pointed to in our preview episode that if not Jannik Sinner, who would it be? Alexander Zverev has been close a few times. He had lost in this final a couple of years ago in 5 sets to Carlos Alcaraz. He had been to Grand Slam finals. And once Novak Djokovic lost to Joao Fonseca in 5 sets in that third round epic, maybe the match of the tournament, you felt like who was really there to stop Sasha Zverev? The top half of the draw was wide open. That's why we get a first-time finalist in Flavio Cobolli. And Alexander Zverev comes through in what I can only describe as a very, very nervy final. It was compelling tennis. I wouldn't say it was always high level, but it was certainly interesting. And he battles past the Italian 6-1, 4-6, 6-4, 6-7, 6-1. Big props, I think, to Cobolli for making this such an exciting long final when Zverev was obviously such a heavy favorite and Cobolli was playing in his first ever Grand Slam final, biggest match of his life.
Yeah, once Sinner went out of the tournament, all eyes kind of turned to Zverev to see if he would be able to, for the first time in his career, hoist a major trophy, if he would be able to control the nerves, which at times in that match against Cobolli, you were sure wondering if he wasn't going to crumble as we've seen him crumble before. And, just before we address the tennis, I did watch the entire match. It was a long one. My wife was on the phone saying, are you coming home anytime soon? Because I was watching with a couple of tennis buddies where I live in Mimico. But first, just want to address the elephant in the room, which is just the dark clouds hanging over Sasha Zverev off the court. And I feel like it would be awkward not to just mention that a lot of people feel super conflicted and super awkward about celebrating someone who has had such, well, what I feel personally is compelling arguments for the fact that he potentially was involved in some domestic abuse allegations and situations more than one time. He is a person, even a figure on the tennis court, who I find very divisive in his antics, in his, how he handles adversity, how he handles situations where he feels like he's not getting his way with a chair umpire, for example. Mm-hmm. Even in my own dealings with him in press over the years, I found him to be kind of crusty when the cameras are turned off. So there definitely is that awkwardness. How does tennis handle a moment like this with someone who's dealt with such compelling allegations? And it's there's no easy answer. I choose personally, and I think we've been kind of on the same page over the years of not doing not giving him much spotlight on the podcast.
Yeah,
we clearly have to talk about the tennis match that's happened here. We've debated before whether the ATP and tennis's governing body should have done more in the aftermath of those allegations. We can't control that. I will stick with the tennis moving forward, but just wanted to say that for those out there, thinking, are we sugarcoating this? I think anything but that.
Yeah, look, I think it is an awkward champion at the end of this event, and everyone knows that. You go on tennis Reddit and read how people feel about Sasha Zverev, and it's mostly a negative feeling. I think the reality to accept here is he's built the type of tennis career that we should not be surprised that he was eventually going to claim a Grand Slam, and he's now won at every level, as we've seen. Obviously, ATP 250, 500. He's won several Masters 1000s. He's won Olympic gold. He's won the ATP finals twice. When a draw finally opens up this way, already missing Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner, his body crashing out, it felt just inevitable that if there was a slam for Sasha Zverev to win, this was the one. And I mean, just speaking on the tennis side, he does deserve some credit for getting over the line and being so steady, I think, in not even the final, just a lot of the matches building up to the finals. I mean, the quarterfinals, he was playing Rafael Jodar, who's this amazing Spanish talent, and I felt he was just rock solid through that match, won in straight sets. Jakub Mensik was coming in form in the semis. He beat him in 4 sets. It was mostly a pretty clean tournament from Zverev, and really, when the nerves hit a lot, and they did in that final in the 4th set, you could feel it. That tie break, he coughed up a 3-1 lead. He was playing really, really tight in moments. Kind of a serve essentially saved him in the 5th. Just being able to rely on this big first serve. It's one of the best serves in tennis. It kind of carried him to victory over Cobolli, who I felt like was a bit physically and mentally taxed by the end of the match.
Yeah, for sure. For Cobolli, the first and the last set, if you could drop them, he played a great middle of the match
For sure.
in terms of starting to make those shots. The first set, I think predictably, we might have guessed for someone in his first major final, he seemed nervous. He was going for shots sometimes that he probably should have played it a little more cautiously. He wasn't able to paint the lines. He tried a couple of drop shots that didn't work either. He looked like exactly what you would expect for someone playing on that stage for the first time. So I was super impressed with him correcting course in the second set. Had some really good gets. The drop shot a couple of times. I'm like, whoa, that just cleared the net. I can't believe he made that one. So he made a match of it. He made a great match of it. The 4th set tiebreak was terrific too. He had a couple of fantastic shots there. Some of his service returns that he just launched back at Zverev, and Zverev could barely even move to get them. I mean, he really made it an exciting final after all. And with so much on the line for Sasha Zverev, I was on pins and needles heading into the 5th. It's too bad that 5th set, you blink and all of a sudden Zverev's up 2 breaks, 3 love. Yeah. And unfortunately, Cobolli, as you mentioned, looked like he had run out of steam, which was maybe a little bit surprising given the fact that he had a walkover in the semifinals, that he came in more rested than his opponent. But you got to tip your hat to him because he made it quite an entertaining Grand Slam final. Who knows if we'll see him back there. Before this tournament, the deepest he'd been in a slam was the quarters at Wimbledon a year ago. So this was quite a strong result for him. He's established himself as a near top 10 player now, the 10th seed anyways in the tournament. And I thought he handled himself quite well there.
He did handle himself quite well. We knew we were going to get a first-time slam finalist in the top half of the draw. And let's be fair to say there were a lot of Canadians incredibly hopeful. This could have been Felix Auger-Aliassime, the way the draw shook up. Not even just the loss from Jannik Sinner. Obviously, that's the big one. But you had players like Daniil Medvedev losing early as well. Ben Shelton was out of the equation. Andrei Rublev was knocked off. I know he was on the bottom half. But a number of players were dropping like flies. And Felix was going about his business. He had he gutted out a really tough first round win over Altmaier, came back and won in the super tiebreak in the 5th, and you felt like maybe he's going to ride some momentum, and he was looking good. Good win over Nakashima in the 3rd round, played his best match of the tournament against Alejandro Tabilo, a Toronto-born player who represents Chile, and then it was Felix who lost to Flavio Cobolli in 4 sets, and you just feel like there were a lot of opportunities for Felix in this match. He led 6-4, 3-1, I believe, early break, second set. I know breaks, they can go in a heartbeat on clay. We know that, and that's why you see all these momentum shifts. But he finished 3 for 11 in break point chances in this match. Cobolli converted 50% of his break points. just in those big moments, I wonder if he felt a bit of added pressure, thinking this is really my chance to push for a final here and see if I can make something happen, and couldn't quite deliver when it was on the line.
I think certainly he did, and everyone felt after he took the first set, and as you mentioned, went up there in the second, that things were looking pretty good for the 25-year-old. His tournament is interesting because I think we expected that first round match was going to be a difficult one. Sometimes Felix has trouble getting going in slam tournaments, and this first rounder was no exception. He drops the first set in his second round match, but recovers nicely. He drops the first set against Nakashima also and recovers. And then when he takes up Tabilo in straights, you think, okay, he's starting to really hit his stride here. And then when he took the first set against Cobolli as well, unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be. And you could see how upset he was, how disappointed he was afterwards, more so than I think, I don't know if we could say we've ever seen him before, but certainly right up there is one of his toughest losses because he realized that opportunity that he had here with Sinner and Alcaraz out. And so it stung that much more. Also, he is 25 years old, which I don't want to say mid-career, but he's been around for so long already. He's been playing pro matches since what? He was 17 years old. He probably played a few, I think, at 16 too. So for him, this could really be like the middle of the career. And you start feeling father time a little bit more, not as you would if you were, 39 years old and Novak Djokovic, but who cares for Novak? He's won everything already. But I'm just saying at 25, I think Felix is feeling that just a little bit and recognizing that opportunities like this one don't come along, let alone every day or every slam, but even every year.
Look, the word he used in that press conference after this loss was destroyed. He said, "I'm destroyed by this loss." And the way he was speaking, it's like he's kind of hit a crossroads here in his career and he's not sure how to feel about everything. And on the one hand, it's very strange for, I would say not a particularly amazing clay court swing that Felix had. I think he made one Masters 1000 quarterfinal, but, he lost early in Madrid. He lost pretty early in Rome as well. He makes this quarterfinal and, a number of other players fell early, a number of other players are injured, and suddenly he's up to his career high ranking of number 4. And the way he's speaking about it is like, he almost doesn't really have pride for that right now because he feels like this was a blown chance. This could have been a moment where I'm in a Grand Slam final and I have this career high ranking, but what do I really have to show for it in terms of the results? And it's strangely true. We see Felix's ranking go up, but I feel like we've seen a better version of Felix than this.
Well, good that he's hungry, good that he wants more, and good that he's upset about it. I think if he walked away and said, I played a great tournament, I'm really happy with this result, made it to the final 8. No, he wants more than that. He expects more than that. And I think that's a good thing. That ranking to me still seems, and I'm not trying to be extra hard on Felix. I freaking love Felix Auger-Aliassime. We've loved having him on the podcast in the past. He's truly one of the good guys out there. The ranking still, to me, I kind of do a double take. I can't believe that he's ranked 4th because the inconsistencies are still present in his game, regardless of what surface he's on. That being said, hey, first Canadian to make the quarterfinals or better at all 4 Grand Slams. That's a huge deal. So he definitely deserves a lot of credit for that. And hopefully this propels him on to a good run on the grass. And then when he hits the hard courts as well this summer, I'd just like to see a more consistent output from Felix rather than these sort of big ups and downs. I mean, if he was a stock, you'd be, stressing out over him all the time for the highs and the lows. But I think hopefully he'll be able to look back and say, hey, quarterfinals at Roland Garros, especially overcoming a tough opening rounder where he could have gone out early. There's some positives to take from it too.
And look, he's not the only one walking away from this slam, maybe disappointed and missing an opportunity.
Oh, dude, I feel like everyone's going to be walking away from Roland Garros on the men's side, kicking themselves after no Alcaraz and an early exit from Sinner.
I think of Andrei Rublev, who's never been past the slam quarterfinal. He loses a 5-setter to Mensik. I read how ticked off and crushed Alex de Minaur was. He's not even a clay court guy, but I think Mensik beat him too. But there are a number of guys, Ben Shelton, who crashed out early in this event too. Daniil Medvedev, who loses in the first round to an Australian after having a pretty good clay court swing. A number of players who this could have been, I know Medvedev's won a slam. A few guys could have been their moment to maybe break through and, if not win a slam, go further than they'd ever been. And it just did not happen. I mentioned Mensik, Joao Fonseca with that incredible 5-set win over Novak Djokovic. What were your
What a
thoughts on
match. What a match.
amazing match? What were your thoughts on just that clash, 19-year-old against the senior, and both of them kind of fighting tooth and nail? Novak still plays unbelievable tennis. Joao just took that one at the end, so full marks to him.
I was so impressed with Fonseca, and I saw him play in Toronto, I guess it was last summer, and I walked away a little underwhelmed, I guess. He went out in his opening round match, if memory serves correct.
Yeah.
And this to me was a real, for both him and Mensik, I thought this was a terrific tournament. And I don't want to say a coming out tournament because Mensik has had some big time success already at the Masters 1000 level. And Fonseca, we've all been waiting. We know the immense talent that he has. But I think both of them really kind of put their foot down and said, yeah, we're ready for more at the slam level. The match against Djokovic was awesome. It was just great. I didn't catch the first couple of sets. I tuned in once it started getting interesting. And boy, was it compelling tennis to see the two of them go back and forth. And the age gap between them, I mean, it's just mind-boggling. A credit to Novak for hanging in there as the match went longer and longer. But it truly felt like one of those generational meetings where one day we're going to say, hey, do you remember that match where Djokovic was in his last season or second to last season or whatever it turns out to be, but nearing the end against a young Joao Fonseca who was yet to have a slam. But surely the way he's playing and the talent he's showing us, you'd have to think that that's in the cards for him at some point.
I do think so. And I loved how much he appreciated the opportunity to get to play Novak even before going into this match. You know, he grew up watching the big three. His idol was Roger Federer. It felt like very low percentage odds that he'd get a chance to play any of the three of them. So for him to get to play Djokovic on such a big stage, third round of a French Open, and rise to the occasion after Novak was thoroughly hitting him off the court in the first two sets, to raise his level the way he did, it was pretty special to see for sure. And credit Jakub Mensik, amazing tournament as well. He's already Miami winner. We're seeing him now make these deep runs and slams. I think if his body holds together, he's another guy he's not as flashy as Joao Fonseca. He's not as kind of a boisterous personality as Joao Fonseca. He kind of quietly goes about his business. But he's going to be in the mix, I think, contending for slams in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see these two guys through the summer swing now to see how they take this result and what they do with it next. And maybe just before we head over to the women's side, I'm curious, what are we going to see at the remaining two slams of the year in terms of the men's draws and the results? Are we going to have more upsets like this? Alcaraz, we know already, is unfortunately not playing on the grass at Wimbledon. Who knows what's going on with Jannik Sinner? Our friend Mike Cation retweeted something today that seemed to allude to the fact that the Italian is still seeking some treatment or some medical visits. So, is he going to be ready to go in a few weeks' time at Wimbledon? Wimbledon comes up super quick. There's far less of a lead up to this slam than there is to Roland Garros, of course. We might be in store for some more unpredictability on a tour that for the last 2 years has been very predictable.
I think for Jannik Sinner, I'm not a member of his team, but here is what I would advise, given how much tennis he played, basically through the Sunshine Double and the entire clay court swing leading into the French Open. And I know it was the cramps that got to him in that match that he lost, but you sort of wonder if it was a little bit of a physical burnout as well. If I'm Jannik Sinner and I'm the team, I'm saying don't play a grass court lead-up tournament. He's good enough and talented enough that he can play his way into Wimbledon. And,
Doesn't need it.
I really don't think he needs it. The one thing that's going to probably work in his favor, it's shorter points on the grass, but you also have to think no Carlos Alcaraz. What greater chance here for Novak Djokovic to just push for one more. I mean, this to me is his best window. And let's be honest, I don't think we're going to see him play a grass court warm up either.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't know if he's, it wouldn't surprise me. He tends to just these days show up when he's ready to rock and save it for these best of 5 matches. So it's going to be some awesome tennis. It's my favorite tournament of the year, favorite slam for sure. Wimbledon. I just love watching the grass court tennis. It's what hooked me as a kid. I think many people were probably hooked to Wimbledon because it kicks off your summer break when you're a kid. So it's easy access for you to watch. And it's just a few weeks away. Anyhow, let's save the glass. I mean, we're already mouth watering over grass court tennis. So let's head over and talk about the women's final. And look, we've been speaking about Mirra Andreeva for years, literally for years, waiting for this to happen. I don't know if there was a player on the women's side who's yet to win a slam that we were more sure of that was going to at some point, and I think probably win several of them. You felt that this was the tournament where it was going to happen. What made you so confident, and what did you take from her performance over the last 2 weeks?
Well, Mirra Andreeva was fantastic for the 2 weeks. She played an unbelievable tournament, basically from start to finish. Why I really backed her is I was looking for who's kind of been consistent through the clay court swing, and it was kind of hard to trust Aryna Sabalenka, who'd had some eye-opening losses in the lead up. We know Iga Swiatek going through coaching changes and still searching for her game. Coco Gauff has been relatively unreliable in 2026. And then Elena Rybakina, who I just don't feel her tennis is necessarily built for the clay. And Mirra Andreeva has been really good all season long. I felt she's been back to her best. Her best, I think, being Indian Wells when she won it last year. Maybe she dipped a little bit after that, but she opened the year with a title in Australia and Adelaide. She picked up a clay court title in Linz, and then she finaled in Madrid, losing to Marta Kostyuk. And I remember after that final, she took it very, very hard. She was emotional about this loss, but I just felt like she came back hungrier and stronger. And the way she played, particularly against Marta Kostyuk in the semifinals of this tournament, it was almost like a revenge match. She hit her off the court 6-1, 6-3, and the confidence I think she brought to the court in that final, she was not going to be upended by a surprise qualifier, Maja Chwalinska, who you could fear playing, someone you really don't know much about, someone who plays completely differently, someone who maybe you haven't spent any time scouting, you haven't played any matches against them whatsoever, and you have to feel that pressure of going into a Grand Slam final where everyone expects you to win. But she handled it so perfectly. Rolls to the title 6-3, 6-2, and I really think this is the first of many for Mirra Andreeva. She's just 19 years old.
And going up against someone in the finals who had won 9 straight matches, including qualifying at the tournament, I mean, that's a scary prospect. And she beat some seriously solid players. I mean, both of us were feeling that Qinwen Zheng could potentially be a sleeper candidate, and she knocked her out 6-4, 6-love. Chwalinska, did in the first round. That was my sort of eyebrow raise already.
Yeah.
Beats Mertens by the same score in the second round, and Mertens is a competent clay court player and a top 25 player. Beats Sakkari in the third round. I know Sakkari's no longer seeded, but she's been showing signs of life lately as well. And then Kalinskaya, a young, talented player. Schneider had been playing terrific as well. I mean, we got to give this qualifier all the props in the world for what she's accomplished here to get now to the point where she'd be a seeded player at Wimbledon if only she was allowed entry, because of how I think tight the draw entry is between the two. But that story, almost a Cinderella story, but that's a fantastic angle to look at as well. And Mirra Andreeva, and it's no disrespect to her, but didn't have the toughest draw, really, when you think about some of the players that she beat. That could have been a lot tougher. She didn't have to face Sabalenka, Rybakina, Coco Gauff, and that's no fault of hers. Those are the players that were put in front of her. As you mentioned, I thought Kostyuk was going to be a tougher one, and she demolished her, and she just seemed poised. She just seemed ready for it. And I think this is really going to, hopefully, I'd love to see her name along with those big threats that I just mentioned, put her up there as a legit and consistent top 5 who's going to challenge for these as well. I kind of like the fact that on the women's side, there's so many that could be contending for major titles right now.
It's made the top of the rankings all the more interesting, with Mirra Andreeva now reaching a career high of number 5. And I just think after last year's Indian Wells title, I don't know if she put additional pressure on herself to be consistently contending for and winning big titles, because she didn't do the best at backing that up. But she's playing way more freely, and she's more mature on court. she's such a young girl still, just 19 years of age. But I think we saw some of those issues when we were talking about her when she was still, 16, 17 years of age. We thought she was an unbelievable talent, but we'd seen a few sort of meltdowns when things were not going her way and she did not handle it well emotionally, kind of would spiral out negatively. And I haven't seen that really at all. Certainly not in this tournament, and really not in 2026. So that sets her up really well for, I think, the rest of the season going forward.
I can't believe she's only 19 years old because it feels like she's been around longer. And she's actually younger than Victoria Mboko, which also blows my mind because
that's true.
Vicky, I mean, let's admit, Vicky's really only been a WTA pro for like a year now, was playing ITFs, leading into and even at the start of 2025, whereas Andreeva has been playing pro matches with the best of the best for a couple of years, if not longer now already. So I think we're just at the start of seeing some major breakthroughs from her. And gosh, I'm surprised I didn't pick her to win this tournament because there's been quite a few tournaments.
You've definitely done it
where I have picked her, and now I lay off and look what friggin' happens. So
I know.
There you go.
Maja Chwalinska, by the way, got to get used to saying that name. She's now up to 21 in the rankings. Went into this tournament qualifier number 114 in the world. You try and sort of look back, like, could we have foreseen, certainly not a run to the finals, but could we have foreseen the qualifier going on a little run and winning a few matches? She played a WTA 250K weeks before the French and had lost a set and retired from the match. But then I think a few weeks prior to that, she had won a WTA 125K. She simply said she's never really played players in the top 100 in general. She wasn't
sure.
So it was sort of a new and bright experience for her, but she has a unique playing style, very unorthodox, uses a lot of drop shots, a lot of slice. I think her tactics can really throw a lot of sort of the aggressive baseliners off of her game. So credit to Mirra Andreeva. I think in that first set when they were sort of 2-3, it was tight on serve. Mirra didn't get flustered by what Maja Chwalinska was throwing at her and held her composure and kind of coasted from there.
And look, it's tough when you play a player that you don't know much about, where you have to scour YouTube to find some sort of videos with your coach the night before because you've never heard of her. And this is something that we talked about with Vicky last year is, I don't know, maybe Vicky'd been on the radar, I think maybe a little longer, but when you start the season ranked 333rd in the world like Vicky did in 2025, a lot of players aren't going to have a clue who you are. So I think that undetected factor, that under the radar factor, which works for you for only so long because people won't make that mistake with the 24-year-old Pole the next time they face her, that's for sure. But it can work to your advantage for sure.
Let's talk about what happened to the world number one, Aryna Sabalenka, because to be fair, it looked like she was cruising into a spot in the semifinals, and likely if she did make the semifinal, maybe we're talking about a title that she wins, but instead just a complete mental collapse against Diana Schneider. She led this match, I think 6-3, 5-3, and Schneider wins the final 10 games, turns it around to win 3-6, 7-5, 6-love, the bagel in that third set. It was reminiscent of how Sabalenka handled the Roland Garros final last year. The conditions were windy, and she simply could not contain her shots in the court. She was unable to sort of change and adjust her tactics, and it felt like she just completely went away by the third set. Big credit to Diana Schneider, the lefty, for stepping up. When she felt that Sabalenka was tight, she started going for her shots and put Aryna on the back foot. And just like that, the world number one misses another chance to win the French Open. One of those slams she's yet to claim.
Yeah, well, both world number ones flamed out far earlier and crumbled leads that we never would have expected them. I mean, Sinner was up 5-1 in that third set.
Yeah.
That's just craziness. So 5-3 also pretty stunning for Sabalenka, who has still been so consistent, making the quarterfinals or better of every major for the last 3 years. So on the positive side, to keep that in mind. But yeah, losing 10 games in a row, it just shows you that even the best player in the world can go out there and be mentally thrown off her game and have something like this happen. So, truthfully, it makes a hack like me feel a whole lot better about when I unravel on the court, if Sabalenka and Sinner can do it as well. So not concerned in terms of Sabalenka putting this one behind her quickly. and fully expect her to be probably my favorite pick at Wimbledon in a couple weeks' time.
This is the beauty of the tennis scoring system, really, eh? Like, you think about
Right.
Jannik Sinner up 5-1 in the third after winning the 2 sets. It's not like basketball where you're up 100 to 68 and there's 3 minutes to go, just run out the clock. There's no option for that in tennis. You have to close it out yourself. And Jannik Sinner's body gave out, and Sabalenka mentally got flustered by some blustery conditions, and just like that, she heads out of the tournament, and Diana Schneider makes her first career Grand Slam semifinal. So I also wanted to touch on Iga Swiatek, by the way. Neither of us picked her to win this title, as we know, and we kind of had concerns on her form going in. What are your thoughts on the way she's playing? Because I feel like there's going to be a lot of pressure for her going into the grass court swing, where she's going to have to defend that Wimbledon title. And she hasn't really shown us anywhere near that remarkable level that we saw in 2025 when she was, double bageling at Anisimova to win that title. She loses to Marta Kostyuk here.
Yeah, boy, would Anisimova love to face Swiatek this year, I think, with all that she's done since then also, right? Yep. And I saw her, grass court warm-up interview at Anisimova, that is, and she's so happy to be back on the surface and just loves it, and it suits her aggressive game so well. But you're right, Swiatek heading in as defending champion probably right now could not feel much less confident than she does, coming off a very lackluster clay season. It's been 2 years in a row now where on the clay, Iga has not been what we were accustomed to seeing previously. She's going to have more pressure on her shoulders going in as defending champ, because the best she could do is hold her ranking where it's at. There's no opportunity to improve when you're just trying to defend all those points from a year ago. And that'll just be another one of the compelling stories as we head into the grass court season. So it's going to have to be something that she can figure out, because for the last 2 years, she seemed vulnerable, which is not an adjective that we would have used going back to 2023, 2024 to describe her.
No kidding. Victoria Mboko, she made the third round of this tournament before losing to former Grand Slam champion Madison Keys. I want to give credit to Mboko for this. And look, we know she kind of had an abbreviated clay court swing. She had wisdom teeth removed. I think she got sick for a period of time, didn't get probably the reps she's accustomed to. I think she was down in this match something like 6-3, 4-2. She stormed back to win the second set, 7-5, and then I think she was down 5-2 in the third before bringing it back to 5-all, and then Keys closed it out 7-5. So she did not go out without a fight. This is a match that Keys could have rolled through in straight sets, and Mboko really showed herself as a player. So I think there were some positives here, particularly also her coming back and winning in the second round over Siniakova, who would go on to win women's doubles with Taylor Townsend, who's a great player.
Yeah, and Vicky had just made the finals as well in Strasbourg, so she had a successful, what I would call a successful clay court season for sure. And she's still learning and evolving and getting better and better. And part of that learning curve and part of that evolution is about to take a giant leap forward, because she's playing with none other than Serena Williams. If we segue over to the grass,
yep.
I mean, this story is just absolutely friggin' mind-blowing to me. Imagine you're 19 years old. You weren't even born yet, and Serena had already won a multitude of Grand Slams and been world number one. You get a text message from, who's this? Oh, maybe Serena, it says. And it is the greatest tennis player of all time asking if you're up for playing doubles in her return to competition in what's been nearly 4 years away. So there's just so many layers to this story. It's so incredible, the fact that Serena Williams, who could have picked anybody, right? She could have said, hey, Venus, come on out and play doubles with me. She could have said, hey, Coco Gauff, a fellow American, come on out and play doubles with me. She could have picked any American tennis player, but she chooses a Canadian who she's never met before, who she's only in passing kind of watched. Serena did say she watched her run to the title in Montreal last year, and that she's casually seen a little bit of her in doubles, which I don't know if I believe or not. But, and here they are teaming up at the HSBC Championships at Queen's Club, which I don't even care what happens. I'm not expecting them to win, to be honest, and I don't think that's a negative thing to say. But they're up against Erin Routliffe and Nicole Melikar, a top doubles tandem. Erin, who's a friend of our podcast, a recent world number one in doubles also. So that's a heck of a heck of a tough one to return to, but just the impact, if I can get back to where I was going, for starters there, what an impact that's going to be on Vicky and Mboko to play this tournament. Maybe they'll play together in Berlin too. I don't know if the plan is that they're going to stick together as partners for the whole grass court swing, but even if it is just this one-off, just the confidence boost it must give the kid that Serena wants to play with you.
For me, it's reminiscent too of Leylah Fernandez getting the opportunity to play doubles with Venus Williams at the U.S. Open last year. And Leylah said she learned so much from Venus. I think just her presence being around a champion of that caliber, and we know Serena's stature is even greater than Venus's with the 23 Grand Slam titles. I think Mboko is just going to soak it all in. I think they should probably keep expectations to a minimum, but just try and enjoy this. It's kind of fascinating that we have the Canadian angle with Aaron Ratliff, who grew up in Caledon, Ontario, on the other side of the net. Like, it's, as you said, a pretty tough doubles match. I saw some video of Serena training. I also saw a video of she and Mboko training, and Serena forgot the hand signal that Mboko gave her when she was about to serve and started laughing, and they kind of reset. So I think they're having fun with it. But for those who have not yet listened, check Mike's interview with Jessie Levine, who is tennis director, former player, tennis director now at Shell Bay, which is this unbelievable private club in Miami where Serena and her family are members. And Jessie, was training with Serena for a few months there. First, maybe just casually hitting, but it was very evident Williams wants to come back to and wants to kind of see where she's at. I don't know if we're going to see her in singles, what her plan is. Does she give singles a try in Berlin before Wimbledon?
I sure hope so. And why not? She seems like she's got nothing to lose in her approach to it. She really does have nothing to lose. Nothing that happens here is going to take away one bit from what she accomplished in her career. Sure. She wants to play pro tennis. Go and friggin' play pro tennis again. We'd love to see it. Who wouldn't want to see it? If Federer said he wanted to come out and play some more tennis, God. Let's do it, right? So so the fact that she's healthy enough to do it, the fact that she's game enough and hungry enough to do it, then let's go. And what a great mentor she could be to some of these younger players too. I would be shocked if she didn't try some singles. It would make sense to me that you'd want to go and play a warm-up tournament just to see how your singles game is feeling in actual competition. And my God, I'd love to see, knock on wood, I'd love to see her then decide, hey, let's play the hardcourt swing too. And she gets along great with Carl Hale, tournament director Carl Hale. She could come and catch some Toronto Tempo basketball games where she's part owner of the WNBA, the new WNBA franchise we have here in the city. And so, hey, Serena, I say, bring it. We'd love to see you here. We'd love to have a chance to chat with you once more on Canadian soil and then lead into the U.S. Open, right? Why not?
I hope she hears your pitch. Someone send her this episode, please. Let's mention Gabby Dabrowski, by the way. Finals of mixed doubles with American Evan King. Great result. Big win in the semifinals over Mektic and Adrian Muhammad, and then losing to the Italian number one seeds in a super tiebreak 10-4. But Gabby's playing good tennis again. And she'll continue on the grass court season as well. This week she's playing the
same tournament.
Same tournament. She's with Luisa Stefani, and they're the number two seed. Yeah. So another Grand Slam final for Gabby. Strong result on the mixed side.
And Gabby was close to getting to the women's final, but my goodness, did they ever get spanked by Siniakova and Townsend 6-love?
That team is so good. That team is so strong. So strong.
They are, but Gabby and Luisa also, I just couldn't believe they walked away with only one game. So just speaks volumes to how good that number one doubles tandem is right now in the women's game. But looking to see Gabby bounce back on the grass courts. I'm super excited for the grass court tennis, so we'll have to do a proper lead-in grass court. Yeah. It really is. We'll have to do a good lead-in episode next week, Ben, for sure. Yeah. I just want to throw in before I forget a thank you to our friends here at 10XTO, which is the premier indoor tennis courts in the city of Toronto. And right now, I could look out the window and see the World Cup football stadium, BMO Stadium, which is going to be front and center this week. Canada plays their first match, I think, Thursday or Friday. Yep. And so thanks to 10XTO for hosting me. And Ben, we got to get out here this summer and have a hit and hit up the rooftop pool at some point for sure.
For sure. I can't wait. Guys, you've been listening to Watching Matchpoint Canada. We will talk to you next time. Thank you guys so much for watching us at Matchpoint Canada. If you like our work, follow along, hit the subscribe button below.